I've bore witness to your trauma, tormenting you, lo, inhabiting your being, like the ultimate parasite. I became the product of it. It multiplies itself. It leached onto me. It did not realize that I would be the one to keep it alive. To it alive.
Well. I can tell it's going to be a great front porch radio today. We're welcoming a local author whose books are among the bestsellers at my own bookstore. Definitely the best-selling in the fiction and poetry category. But I was like, I couldn't pull the numbers the right way, but I was like, maybe this is also, you might even be the bestseller of the whole bookstore. I'm gonna have to do some research. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Vincetta is a poet, spoken word artist, and author of Metamorphosis and The Boundless Bloom, two collections that explore transformation, healing, and the sacred journey of self-liberation. Her words, whether on the page or the stage, have a way of moving straight through the intellect and into the body, which makes sense because she writes from a place she calls feeling over format. That philosophy carries through soundscapes, photography, and offerings at Free True You, where she serves as a healing guide for the community. We'll talk today about what it means to live a liberated life, spiritually, creatively, and collectively, and how poetry can be both a personal ritual and a form of resistance. Congratulations on the publication of your new book of poetry, Vincetta, and welcome to Front Porch Radio.
Hi, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here too. Your headphones may not be plugged in. We're real casual here on Front Porch Radio. We're literally in the basement. It's okay if you can't hear yourself, if you can't figure that out, but move the mic a little bit more central to you. There we go. And I'll just turn the mic up. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing good. Yeah. So we opened with a little snippet from your EP for Metamorphosis, a more spoken word version of the poem Caterpillar from the book. Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I co-produced that with my friend Coriello. So yeah, it was really exciting to kind of put like a sonic journey to the words, and kind of bring it to life in a more immersive experience for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling everyone, I was telling Vincetta before the show, because I've seen her obviously a bunch of times at Spiral Circle, and of course I've heard some of her poetry. I've gone through your books. But when I get to do the radio show, I get to learn more and more about a person in a very focused, in-depth way. And it's just been really cool to see some of the similarities that you and I have with just things. And also like I just got to listen to your EP, which was incredible. So yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for agreeing to be here. And I'm super excited. This show, just so you know, if you're just tuning in, it's about an hour-long program, and we're going to be talking to Vincetta about her poetry, both of the books. She's pretty active in building community here in Orlando, and what it's like to be. I mean, that based on the numbers I'm seeing, I know you're out in the community doing good things. But it's actually phenomenal. I think we looked it up, and you've sold 52 titles, 52 books of the Metamorphosis. When did you publish Metamorphosis?
2021. So okay. Almost 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah. 52 books from one store. And I'll tell you right now, for those of you listening, usually when I purchase from any author, I'm like 1 or 2 books is like all I will carry because we're a small bookstore. It's not, people are coming in and that's just kind of how it works out. And I knew yours was selling way better than most people's, but I hadn't pulled the numbers until just before. And I was like, oh my gosh, you sold 52 books of one of your titles in the last 4 years, which is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, it means that it's really moving people and um they are recommending it to other friends and they're also recommending that people shop local, which I think is great too.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And then you just released the Boundless Bloom last month, you said, right?
Yeah.
And so I would love to ask you, like, for our audience, like, what is tell us a little bit about each book and what the themes are, and maybe like how your relationship to writing has evolved between books.
Yeah, for sure. So, Metamorphosis, the first chapter starts off me really looking into my trauma. So, a lot of shadow work. And it was like at the beginning of my Saturn return when I started writing this. So, if you're into astrology, it's kind of like the time when stuff gets real for you and you kind of have to face, you don't have to, but everything in your life, the way it unfolds, puts you in a position to face yourself and to be real with yourself and to understand who you want to become moving forward in your life. And it's not an easy time, you know. So yeah, I started writing it in the beginning of my Saturn return. So the first chapter is me going through this trauma, like that happened with my family and my romantic relationships. And then the second chapter is the cocoon of me really going into this healing phase and like the really empowering parts of that, but also the really hard time like parts of that. And then the third chapter is butterfly, and I'm looking at the world with this new perspective. Um, so yeah, it was a really, really like important, I think, part of my evolution to write that book because a lot of the stuff that's in the first chapter, I hadn't spoken with like anyone about a lot of those things. It was kind of just something I kept inside. So it was really healing for me to like write it and put it out in the world. And then it was even more empowering when people would write me and tell me how it inspired them, like being able to read that someone had gone through similar things. So yeah, that made me feel like, wow, you know, my life and all these things that happened like served a purpose beyond me, which I
Right.
think is really important for me. And then the second book, The Boundless Bloom, I'm more embodying all of these things because I think when I was writing Metamorphosis, I was coming to these realizations and they were really impactful for me and really powerful, but I didn't really like live them through all the way, if that makes sense. If you're into understanding like that you can have a mental belief, but there's a difference between believing something and having a thought and truly living into that. And the Boundless Bloom, I'm really exploring how do I embody this life now? How do I embody these practices? How do I feel free in my body and in my day to day? So yeah, the first chapter, I am still like on this heroine's journey, and it really does pick up from this like Saturn return place where the last book left off. Like the first poem here is like Saturn return ish, and the last poem in Metamorphosis is like an ode to Saturn. So there's like that like handing of the torch. And then there's a lot of poems in the first chapter about like my menstrual cycle, my follicular phase, like what does it feel like to embody my woman incarnation and what that looks like. And then the second chapter is all about the earth because it's like the most embodied thing I think we have of the feminine, like the actual dirt and the plants and the trees. And then the third chapter is about like the spiritual aspect of the feminine and like how does that look like us embodying this divine aspect that we are.
Yeah. All the big questions.
My mind
Yeah,
24/7.
that's amazing. And being able to contemplate yourself in context, not only to family and generational and, all of that, but then also in relationship to, it sounds like, the bigger questions of the cosmos and the planet, and all of those different things. Some people don't ever get that to those questions in their entire lifetime, and you're doing it in a beautiful way, and in a way that really is impacting people through just the way just your own expression is um, yeah, making people not feel so alone, seen, valued, heard kind of thing, right? Um, and that is so rare because there's not a lot of people that are like, you know what, I'm really going to throw down with this poetry thing.
Yeah.
So, because it's like, that's what society tells us, it's just superfluous or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so the fact that you're doing that, you're doing it in an embodied way, you're living in a creative a lifestyle, um, it's just everything. You're just a really great model for how people could be if they were just following their passions, which may not be poetry for a lot of people, but how would you stand out if everyone was doing poetry, right? Okay, so when you sit down to write, how do you begin? Do you begin with words, with emotion, with energy? And how do you know when something's finished? Like, what's your process like?
So I write very in the moment. Like 95% of the things I've written is just like something comes to me and I write it. It's kind of like channeling, I would say. It's very rare that I like sit down and I give myself a prompt. I like to challenge myself to do it sometimes, to do things opposite of the way I normally do it. I think it's healthy sometimes. But most of the times I'm just like channeling, like an experience happens and I'm like, I need to write this.
Yeah.
And then I just leave it alone and I really don't go back and like edit it or anything for a while, like sometimes years, until it's time to like write a book. And then I'm like, let me look at all the things I've written over the past whatever years, and then I like edit it. Sometimes I don't feel like it needs to be edited. Sometimes I'm like, example, when it comes to write the Boundless Bloom, like some of those poems, like 4 years had passed and I was like, oh, now I feel like I want to add something more. Now I feel like it needs to go in a completely different direction. So it's kind of like I'm always just in the energetics of it. And then whenever I feel like it's done, it's done. And I try to remind myself specifically when I'm editing, like that the only truth, there's no right or wrong, because I think that can be a thing you could get caught up in. Like, oh, is this the right thing? Are people going to resonate? I try to just really be in tune with my truth and then trust that if someone resonates, okay, it's perfect. It's supposed to resonate. And if they don't, then it's not meant to.
Right.
So I think I just try to allow like my guiding truth and instinct and gut be like the final say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Thinking about the creative process, a lot of times people, our artistic types get caught up thinking about the selling of a thing before, and I have both the creative side and the selling side in me, like not selling for selling's sake, but just ways to market and get it out into the world and share your gifts. But I've always said, like, you have to suspend that part when you're in the creative process, because it totally interferes.
It
Totally interferes. You can edit later, but it does interfere with just the ability to come. Do you have like a practice of like waking up early? Does this come at all times? Like, how does it work for you?
No, I wake up early sometimes, but it's not part of like my schedule, my creative ritual at all. Like, but it's interesting because I feel like after I write a book, I try to give myself time to like not think about creating things, because I'm so devoted in the process. Like I'm like, everything is like, this is my number one focus. Like I'm birthing this thing and I'm giving my all to it. And like the process of writing the Boundless Bloom was like 2 years. And so I just like published it, I think, a month ago now. So I've kind of just been like taking a breather, thinking about anything creative.
Yeah.
Like if it comes, it comes, but I'm also not like, oh, I need to create anything. But normally if I'm like in the process of creating something, like that's like my number one priority. And I try to like minimize distractions and minimize things that could be pulling on my creative energy. Just because I do want to give like my best and my all to creating this book. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome that to be able to, like, I guess in permaculture, they call that like stacking functions, where a lot of people, we have our 9 to 5, and this is what we do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And then on the weekends we have off. And, oftentimes the creative process looks like, 40 days of creativity and then 40 days of doing nothing and 40 days followed by 40 days of like, okay, now I'm going to get into marketing or whatever, it is. So playing with time in a different way, which I think is also part of the liberation process, because time is one of those things that gets us gridded down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't?
And I feel like even energetics, once again, of like feeling like what feels like, where's the energy flowing? Because I realize like if I'm like, oh, today I want to edit, but my energy is not like feeling like I want to edit and I force myself,
Right.
like I feel the difference in that versus like me allowing myself to not edit because I don't feel like it. But I feel like that's also a balance between like,
Am I just being, am I
you
just
know,
being a brat right now?
yeah, like, you have to fill it out for yourself of like, am I making an excuse? Like,
Hmm.
or am I truly like, is my energy telling me to rest instead?
Yeah.
And then coming back to this two days later, and now my energy's like, yes, let's edit, and now I'm like flowing and everything's going great. So I definitely feel like it's very like finding the balance for yourself and being honest with yourself as
Yeah.
well.
Now, what was the, because I know other poets are probably going to be listening to this, other writers are going to be listening to this. What was the process of self-publishing like for you?
Mhm.
Like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Like, what was the problem? Like, what was that process like? And how did you just have the, like, I'm going to go get it and I'm going to do it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Like I researched about traditional publishing and I like did try to like reach out to publishers. What is it? Like a query agent, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But also I'm just the type of person, like my personality in this lifetime, like if I truly believe something's for me, I'm gonna go do it and I'm not gonna like let anyone stop me. And so I felt like I'm not gonna wait until like a publisher gives me like, yes, your work is worthy of being published. Like I got to the point where I'm like, I feel like I want this to be out and I feel like it's time and I'm gonna do it. For better or for worse. That was my
Yeah.
decision. So that's kind of how I came to like I'm gonna self publish. And then because a lot of too with it is like money, which I understand. Like we're talking about the business side of everything. You need to make money,
Right.
but a lot of publishers don't feel like there's money in poetry specifically. Especially like a lot of my poetry is like very spiritual as well. So I think when they're looking at that of like, okay, we already don't think poetry is gonna sell, and then she's writing about like spirituality and menstrual cycles, they're like thinking like, okay, am I gonna make money off of this? And they just don't see that. Not all of them. Who knows? Maybe there's someone out there that will call
Right.
me. But like there hasn't been, and I'm like, okay, well, I feel like this is in alignment with my own soul's evolution and what I need to do for myself, and I trust that someone out there will resonate. So yeah, and then the process actually wasn't that hard. I feel like getting together the materials and like you said, the marketing, like, cause I feel like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna try my best to give it everything I have. So I'm like creating like a rollout for it, and I'm like working with the creative direction of like the cover, and so there's a lot of like moving pieces to it, so that takes a long time. But also you don't have to do that. You can just write
Yeah.
the book and
Yeah.
put it out there. And putting it on the KDP, and there's like Ingram and there's KDP. I think those are the like the two self-publishing things that are like the top ones people use. It's not hard to like go on there and like fill out the things. I think once you have the material, maybe you can fill out the form in like an hour. It's not like super hard process, and you can get a proof and look at it and everything before it's published.
That's awesome. It's good information for a lot of people to have, because it's not an easy thing to be an independently published person. It's not easy to be. It's easy to be a poet in life, but to be a published poet, maybe not as difficult, or not as easy. But also just having the gumption to just be like, I'm going for this,
Yeah.
and look at you. I mean, I'm telling you guys, 52 books from one place. Like literally, like when I have a local author, I might sell 4 books in 4 years. And so for 52 for just one of your books is it really incredible, and it does speak to the quality of what you're writing and how much it is moving people, for sure. And so we talked. Let's go back a little bit because you talked. You described your creative approach as feeling over format. And so can you like unpack what that means like in practice?
Yeah, because I try my best to live my life in this way. Um, and that's something that's been very current even in my own evolution right now, is like allowing myself to shapeshift even more. But I try not to like put myself in a box, and I don't like when people put me in a box. because I feel like we're all so multidimensional. Like we have so many facets to ourselves. And so I try to just let myself feel and create in whatever format that might take. So it's like if I'm feeling like making music, or if I'm feeling like taking a photo, or if I feel like taking a nap, like, you know what I mean? Doing cartwheels in the grass. I try to let my true feeling and desires like lead the way. So that's kind of where that phrase comes from. And I read that phrase like years ago, and it like stuck with me because I was like, I don't want to have to put myself in a box. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's somebody following their creative passion, their intuition. And you also spoke earlier a little bit about the discernment of like, am I just trying to escape? And sometimes, yeah, and that's fine. But that is amazing. I feel like, is it time to read a poem from your new book?
Yeah, I can.
This is a special treat, everyone.
Okay, I turned to this one, so I'm going to read this one. Earth in my bones, stars in my lungs, exploding into supernovas, galaxies birthing within my womb. I am more than your idea of a woman, defined by her body, existing in the confines of your limited logic. I dance with the divine in dimensions unseen, visiting parallel realities in my dreams. Time and space are not constructs to me when consciousness exists beyond human need.
I'm just going to let that hang in the air for a second. What was the inspiration for that one?
I feel like this whole not feeling limited, especially a huge, like, I was gonna say underlying theme, but it's not that underlying of the second book is like the feminine. So yeah, not feeling like limited like by my existence, especially I think just challenging that notion of like, oh, woman's body, or and then these are a lot of societal constructs that are, I'm going to use the word, against women and very suppressing to women. And so just challenging like this notion, like I'm beyond this 3D reality of what you see of me. And yeah, I can't be contained or controlled.
Feral. I'll say right now what I chose the last name Wilder for myself, and it was about continuing to be in full possession of all of my. People think of wildness as out of control, but I think the wild is in possession and totally embodied of all of their senses. And when you have that and you're using it in unison, then it's liberating. It's about sovereignty. It's about being being feral, if you will, but not in a. People think feral means like you're not. You're out of control or you're being foolish, and no, it's full aspects of all of your senses put together. So I absolutely love that. And liberation and healing is a big part of what you're doing, on both the collective and the individual levels. Let's just talk about it for a little while. I mean, you've gotten, you've been mentioning the feminine as an aspect of that. Right now, we've got a lot going on in the world, in so many ways. Let's just talk about liberation, collective, personal. Where are you at with all that?
Oh my God. I feel like freedom and like liberation is a big theme for like my soul. Like I remember being in high school and we had to do this like project about like our number one value, and I did a whole collage about freedom on so many levels. I think ancestrally, I think collectively in my own life and having to deal with trauma and breaking through like generational curses. So yeah, I think I am like a really big believer that liberation starts like within. Because I feel like if we created the perfect world right now, but we just put the exact same people with the exact same traumas right back on that, on that plane, I think eventually things would start to unravel exactly how we see them today. So a lot of the work, I think, does need to be done within. Of course, there's systematic things. I'm not like ignoring that, you know.
Of course.
But I think that is what we're in control of. Like we can control ourselves, and we can be honest with ourselves, look within of like what is like within us that's causing us harm, and healing that so that we can show up better to our own lives, for our own selves, and then of course to the people around us, and then of course to the world. So that's kind of where I've started my liberation work, and where I feel like I've seen the most impact, you know.
Yeah, I totally know. I had, I'm going to tell this on air. I can't believe I'm going to say this on air. I also grew up in a household that was, not as much fun. And it was, there was a lot of suppressing of myself that went on, but also had, like you and, things I've read that you've written, like, I always had a little bit of an awareness that seemed beyond my age. And like, I could just be like, well, I wonder, I was curious about why things were the way they were. Anyway, long story short, when I turned 21, I got a tattoo that I think means free on my on my backside, because it was something I wanted to like dedicate myself to. And and it became a process of like not wanting to be, I wanted to, for me, like being free is about looking for the truth and not being delusional. It's about having some clarity, and not like deluding myself, That's just the way that I think about things. And like, being in an environment, a childhood environment where you can't really leave, but you're experiencing, you know, like you do find a way that your mind is the thing that's free. Your heart is the thing that's free, even in circumstances like that. And then when you can leave the circumstances, then you can do much more exciting, freeing things. I don't know. That's just kind of, it's just interesting that we both had similar childhood experiences. And then we've both been on that path of like sovereignty and freedom and liberation, but starting within, seeing what doesn't feel right, what's toxic in the environment, and like how can we be the alchemist in our own ways, to create a place where everyone can feel powerful.
Yeah, and I think when you said power, I feel like that is like another reason why I think everything starts from within, because I feel like once everyone realizes like how powerful they are and how much access to love and how like kind of in charge of their reality they kind of are, like you said, alchemizing things, then I think that would shift a lot in the world as well.
Oh yes, I agree with that. A lot of people don't realize that they can use their voice to say things, and I just had a friend tell me like, yeah, everybody tells other people how to treat them, like in closer relationships or whatever, and that's the thing, is like, these are what I stand for, like understanding your values. And like, you've done that, you've gone through that process of identifying what your values are and how you want to show up in the world. And I think if more people did that kind of interior work to figure out, what are my values? What does carry weight with me? How do I want to be integrity with what those values are? Which values are mine and which ones are cultures, and all of that, right?
Yeah. A lot of questioning.
A lot of questioning, right? And a lot of, I guess I should ask you, what is your relationship with uncertainty? Because in order to question things, you have to be comfortable somewhat being uncertain, of not knowing.
Yeah. I think that has been a lot of my spiritual journey, getting comfortable being uncertain, because I think growing up in a very chaotic household where everything was out of control, I kind of looked at control as a way to have safety in my psyche. And so I've been like, no, like let go of control. Let go. It's just like layers upon layers of like letting go and letting go and letting go. So I've been through that process, but it's always like deeper. I know, as you know.
Yeah, 100%. There's always more.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I thought I was done with that.
No.
No.
Here we are again.
Here we are again. Exactly. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I guess listeners just get a little comfortable with, not having all the answers.
Yeah.
And just following the process. I love that. I think it's time for another one.
Ooh,
I've
okay.
got her here, so I'm captive audience here. While she's looking at the next poem, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder. We have conversations for the common good every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. And today's guest is Vincetta. She is a poet, an author. Her first book, Metamorphosis, is a raging success. And her new book, which she's reading from now, is called The Boundless Bloom. This was published just a month ago.
Okay, since we were just talking about like liberation, I'm gonna do this one. I resist like a set, words in my mouth, ready to speak my desires into being. Resurrection is possible, and it lives on my tongue. I resist like Kalima, blade in hand, slicing off the heads of all who dare attempt to destroy the highest order. I resist like Kuan Yin, compassion blooming from my heart like the 1,000-petal lotus flower. My love knowing no bounds. I resist like Oshun, joy emanating from my being, hips swinging to the rhythm of life, in love with existence, my energy, the source of creation itself.
This is why she's a bestseller. Wow. Wow. Why don't you talk a little bit? There was 3 goddesses in there, right? 4. Okay. Let's talk about all 4 of them. Give us the tour.
So the first one I named was Aset Isis. I just have always felt really drawn to her and Kalima. Just like the whole death rebirth thing is a very prominent theme of my life. So yeah, I've always really felt drawn to them, and just the duality of the feminine, of like they're destroying things, they're creating things, and it's all very sacred. Also, I think when it comes to like the rage, I also have a poem in here about Kalima and like questioning what if she was doing this rage dance joyously, with very much intentional and very like sacred. So yeah, and then and Kuan Yin, which was a really, really, really powerful goddess when it came to like thinking of my inner mother and like reparenting myself and how I wish, my mother would have been. And so I would really look to Kuan Yin and her energy for like reparenting myself, and just how compassionate she was and is, and her energy. And then Oshun, I feel like I just really look to her very like inspiring, like when it comes to just being in your full femininity and in your sensuality, and like looking to yourself, because she holds like the mirror, so she's always looking to herself like as a source of her own inspiration. She's not looking outside to anyone else for that validation, which I really find inspiring, and just as a reminder to myself of, as long as I am feeling good and I am like the source of like what I am doing, then like not letting myself be like, I guess, hijacked by anyone else's validations or thoughts or opinions, which is not always easy, but it's like a reminder for me for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, when you mentioned Kalima, I was like, ooh. I went through a phase. Went through a moment with Kali. And so that is just incredible. I mean, how do you cultivate a relationship with these different energies or goddesses? Like, what is your process like there? Like, is it just like an inspiration that shows up and you see an image and then you follow that thread, or is there more direct communications? Like, what is that like? those connections?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of the time it like appears in my life in some way. And like I remember the first goddess that appeared during like the beginning of my Saturn return to me was Oya. And I was like, who is this person? I was like, I'm a big like researcher. Like I love going down rabbit holes and like staying up till 3 in the morning researching something. So I just went down this whole rabbit hole of like, who is Oya? Da, 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 what does all this mean? Like, and it was like, oh, storm, like transformation. And at the beginning of like my Saturn return, I was like, oh, of course. Of course. So it's like a lot of that, like things will just come into my reality and my awareness, and I'll just like follow my curiosity, and also, of course, try to be as respectful as possible, like of these goddesses, I think, and like come to them with gratitude and like also understanding like these are just aspects of ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Everything, we're all of these things, we're all one source energy. So really looking to them to also help me like understand and integrate this aspect of myself, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ooh, yeah. Okay. I okay. Oh, we have 40 minutes left. Man, this has gone really fast. Or no, 20 minutes left. It's already 4:40. Okay. So I feel like I'd love to turn a little bit to community work because you've
Mhm.
cultivated a deep connection with the Orlando community through your poetry, the healing performances, events around the community. I would love to know like what you think makes Orlando's creative scene unique right now,
Mhm.
and also tell people like the ways that you are tapped in various formats to the Orlando creative community.
Yeah, I think Orlando's creative scene is cool from what I'm experiencing. I can only speak from my experience, but it seems like everyone is super supportive, and it's not like, oh, only writers are supporting writers. Like there's people who are in music that are supporting me, and it's like just everybody just wants to see everyone like win in this way that doesn't feel like anyone's putting anyone down or like, oh, I'm above you. And this is just from my personal experience. So it feels really like open and like collaborative in that way, which is exciting, you know. And then two things, I do events here and there. It's not like I have anything like when it comes to my poetry specifically that is like reoccurring. But if you did want to like know what was happening, I post on my Instagram.
Yeah, you can say please
It's
so.
by Vincetta, Byvincetta. And then I also co-host 2 writing workshops a month. The first one is the second Wednesday at Spiral Circle at 6 p.m. It's totally free, and we give out topics and we all write and share, and it's optional to share. So don't feel like, oh, I don't want to share, so I'm not going to come. And it's an hour long. And the second one is something new, and it's every last Wednesday of the month at 7:30 at Whippoorwill/Easy Luck. And we will have like a poet that we're highlighting each month. So this month is Edgar Allan Poe, and we're just gonna learn a little bit about the poet and then try to write poetry inspired by that poet. So it's at 7:30, and it's this Wednesday.
Yeah, so you're really like cultivating other writers,
Yeah.
and other voices. And that's one of the things that I've just adored about you is that you're not just doing your own thing, but you're also out there just creating a culture of conscientiousness and intention around being creative and writing and finding your voice and playing with things. I love that Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah.
for this.
I'm excited because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't really write in that style, but I
Yeah.
like challenging myself, you know?
hmm What are some of the things that have just like the highlights or the things that have warmed your heart through doing some of these events? Like,
Mm.
what are some of those moments where you're like, I am so glad that I did this so that I'm experiencing this moment right now?
Yeah, I would definitely say the workshop at Spiral is we've been doing it for almost a year now, and it's just really beautiful seeing how like we'll all like get in this energy like subconsciously. Like everyone's writing will kind of like piggyback off of each other, which I think is really cool how like this energy like kind of just forms in the room. And just hearing how much it impacts people, like motivates people, like people like drive almost like an hour sometimes to the workshops. Yeah. And they're like, it's their highlight of their month. And so it's like really exciting. And then just hearing people want to have more like connection. They've asked Cheyenne and I to like do like retreats and stuff. So we have that on our like list. Yeah.
Do
I'm
you
like, yeah.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's cool just seeing like how much other people really enjoy the space as well, and it makes it worth it for like Cheyenne and I as well to like show up and have this community.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I've been fortunate. Uh, at my old restaurant, Sean Welcome hosted Diverse Word for many, many years. And there is a very strong poetry community here in Orlando, and there has been for many, many years. And to see you guys carrying on that in a way that's not just performance based, but really is about supporting and cultivating the writer in the process of writing, which I think is unique. Is there's not ever, a lot of people go out to a performance, but to actually sit there and like co-write, what is it? Body doubling, having opportunities for that, and forging friendships. And, I can imagine that part of why you are doing a lot of the community work is because I mean, having kind of come from similar upbringings, sometimes it's nice to build the family you want, right?
Yes,
and the
yes.
community that you need.
Yes.
And to create that for other people who might need it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Another poem. I know you have one.
Okay, I do have one more.
Let's do it.
This one is dedicated to Orlando. It's called Hometown. Memories scattered on every block like streetlights. Love grows here like weeds, invasive, but it knows no bounds. Pain and trauma composted into fertilizer for the harvest of transgenerational healing. A new story was written. Glory, glory, glory. A new story was written.
I'm just letting it hang. I like it to be in the air. Oh man. How many poems are in this book?
I don't know, like 200 something poems.
200 something poems. 200 something poems. That's the Boundless Bloom. Are you going to put any of that to music? I have questions. Are you going to put any of that to music?
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to. I definitely want to.
Because we opened with some of that Metamorphosis has several things set to soundscapes, if you will.
Yeah.
And I can just, you could just do like a whole, I want to see videos of it, like I could just, because I can see your eye. If you go to, what is your website? Because if people go there, they can get a feel for it.
Yeah. It's Vincetta, Vincetta.co.
Okay. Go there because you'll get a feel, because it's not, even though we're talking about her poetry, she's multiple disciplinary. So there's visuals, there's sounds, and all kinds of things that I think complement your vision really, really well. I wonder what's next for you. Like, what are you going to be working on for the future? Are you just going to, do you think there's going to be another book of poetry? What do you think is going to happen next? What are you dreaming of?
That's a really good question. I jokingly said to my friend, but also not so jokingly, that I want to join a band. I don't know. I just want to like mess around.
Yeah.
And just experiment, I think, a little bit more. Just because the past 2 years have been so structured with like, I need to edit and finish this book, and I just want to like experiment. And then I'm like experimenting with the Substack. TBD.
Right.
On that. Follow my Instagram. I'll definitely post about it there. So if that's something you're interested in, like what I'm doing in the future, definitely I think just follow me on Instagram, because I'm just like experimental. Of course, I think marketing this book more, because like you put so much time into creating something, you definitely want to like market it and like make content around it and stuff. So that's something I want to do. And of course, I think down the line there will be another poetry book. I don't know when.
You're like, I can't think about it right now. I just
don't want to
delivered
think
this
about
baby.
like I'm like, but at some point
Mm-hmm.
down the line, there will be another one. So we'll see. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm just as curious to see what will happen in my
She's
future as anyone
okay.
else.
She's okay with the uncertainty because she's living in the flow, y'all.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yeah, it's so exciting to see people that are just asking questions like you are, and recording impressions and leaving a record, and just, and I know it's something that is just kind of like a thing that happens for you. And of course you're like, well, okay, now I'll put it into a book. So the book is like, yes, this thing that happens, but really it's a way of being, to be able to synthesize things into into a into a song, into a poem, into just a book, itself. And to be able to take the time to do that, like what do you think it is about you or any creative person that is able to, because in a lot of ways you have to go against the normie culture or whatever that is, to be able to step outside and be a creative person. Is there any like thread that you see that helps make that shift, or be integrated in both worlds?
From being a creative and just like existing.
Yeah, because I mean, I know it's so normal for you.
Yeah.
We probably are like, I'm just doing it. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, do you have a 9 to 5? Like what is like, or do you are you able to live in a more flowing way? Like how do you make that reality happen for you? Because I know there's a lot of people who might have the poetry in their heart, but not be able to step out of their structure, I guess you could say.
Yeah. No, I think it's just prioritizing the life that you want, like that's really what it comes down to. Like, because at the time I was putting this book together, I did have a 9 to 5, and it's just like being like, this is something that's important to me and I'm going to create the time for it. End of sentence. Like, I'm not going to make any excuse about it. It's just prioritizing what you think is important, and believing that what you have to say like matters, and not making it about anyone else. Just being like, no, like I have this desire in my heart and I am gonna fulfill it.
Yeah.
Which is easy coming out of my mouth, but that's kind of what it's about.
Right.
Just prioritizing that.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope that listeners might be out there, wondering like how they do it. That you just, I mean, it sounds like you just start and you just make it happen.
Yeah, one step at a time too, because I feel like breaking down goals like helps, so it's not overwhelming. Because it's like, oh, I'm gonna write a book, that can seem like such a big thing, and it is a big thing, but like breaking it down and being okay, this month I'm gonna focus on gathering all the things I wrote, or if you need to write, like be like, okay, the next 6 months I'm gonna focus on just writing. Like breaking it down into more digestible things, I think helps for sure, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed. Like, oh, this month I'm gonna write a poem a day, and not like overthink it and not be like, oh, is this good a poem? Is this a bad poem? Just, I'm going to write a poem a day. I think that's a doable thing, and just breaking it down into like things that feel good for you, like to succeed, setting your own self up for success,
Yeah, but believe in yourself, be your own best friend, be your best cheerleader, if you will. And yeah, get curious, be okay with not knowing outcomes sometimes, because it's a process. It's not a logical thing, an analytical, logical thing. It's a way to flow through life. And you do it so well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to remind everyone that you're listening to Front Porch Radio. My name is Julie Wilder. We have conversations for the common good every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. I also put the episodes up on Substack. So if you go to Substack and look for Front Porch Radio, you'll be able to find this episode in probably about a week, but also all of our past episodes. We've had, since we're deep in poetry land here, I had another poet on probably about 6 months ago. Her name is Bridget. Bridget Baines, and is a great episode. And she also did some readings. And hers is an unpublished work. So yeah. So if you're interested in poetry, that would be a good one for you to listen to as well. And yeah, do we have one more poem before we go that we want to leave on?
Let me see. Okay. In the belly of the mother, I am immersed in her waters, reformed and reborn, tethered from womb to womb. The waves of grace wash over me delicately. I am softened. My bones become tender and flexible, shape-shifting, seamlessly weaving through fabrics of existence. In the stillness, all is in motion. In the liminal, there is liberation.
So good. Where can people buy your book?
At Spiral Circle, of course.
Yeah, there is that. And if they're not local, is there like online?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
That's how you have to do it as a self-publisher. I know I have mixed feelings about Amazon.
I know. I'm like, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings, but it's very helpful for people who want to self-publish.
Mhm.
So there's that. And the book's titles are Metamorphosis is her first book from 2021, right? And The Boundless Bloom is the most recent title that she's been reading from today. I'm going to play one more track from her EP from the Metamorphosis book so that we also get a feel for that on the way out. But I just want to say thank you so much for doing what you do and being an inspiration and also cultivating community while you do it. Like, it's just, we need more people like you in the world.
Thank you, and ditto.
Yeah, so excited. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been an incredible conversation with Vincetta. She's a poet, spoken word artist, and author of Metamorphosis and The Boundless Bloom. You can find her work on Substack. The Earth Diaries is her Substack. It's just getting started, so don't get too crazy. And of course, locally at Spiral Circle Bookstore, where her books continue to inspire and move so many of our readers. If you'd like to hear this conversation again or share it with a friend, you can find the podcast version of today's episode on our Front Porch Radio Substack, along with past shows, listener extras, and community spotlights. Thanks for spending part of your day with us here on Front Porch Radio, where we slow down and connect over conversations for the common good. Thanks, Vincetta. And we're going to go, you can find on Spotify, if you look for Vincetta on Spotify, you can find this Metamorphosis EP. I'm going to play chapter 2, which is called Cocoon. Let me turn it on. That would be helpful. It's on. Playing on iPhone. This computer. Wait. That's Caterpillar. Hold on. Here's Cocoon. And we can leave.
My identity shed like a snake's skin, coming undone. Parts of me no longer fit,
so they die. And though I was happy to see them go, I grieve